Welcome into the 8th episode of Season 2 of Full Throttle, the Presidio Group's automotive industry podcast. I'm your host, Jason Stein, Director of Multimedia and Events at Presidio. On a regular basis, Full Throttle serves as the industry's meeting point for great conversations with leaders across the automotive world.
What I'm seeing is, I think you saw it in COVID, and then it continued, past COVID, and you've seen it at different inflection points in our industry where, I think the really smart dealers are going back and focusing on the blocking and tackling, of their business and how to get a little bit more, back to the basics. I think the CDK cyber event, caused that. It's like, how do we desk deals? Well, if we don't have technology, are we not able to desk deals? Well, certainly, you are able to desk deals. You just got to go back to the future a little bit and, do it kind of the old-fashioned way. So.
The shiver that ran through the industry in July was one of epic proportions. The cyber attack and ransomware that occurred at CDK Global didn't just affect the DMS giant, it also rattled the industry and left everyone considering what could occur within their own operations. One could imagine that at other DMS companies, the moment was sobering and real. Reynolds and Reynolds reached out with an offer to assist dealers as well as reflect on their own best practices. Today, about a month later, we find its president, Chris Walsh, in the calm following the industry storm, but also cognizant that this is a time for the company and every business to pay attention to the threat that is very real. Chris has been with Reynolds for more than 35 years, holding various leadership roles in business development, operations, quality control, sales, marketing, and support. Today, we catch up with him on that topic and others, including his interaction on a regular basis with dealers across the country. Among the issues he's hearing about, IT management, compliance, insurance, employee training, and of course, cybersecurity. There is also the issue of Reynolds assisting dealers who are trying to unlock the next big breakthrough in productivity, including AI and a changing digitized process. We hit all of those subjects with the president of Reynolds and Reynolds in the aftermath of the cyber tsunami. Today on Full Throttle.
Hi, my name is Chris Walsh. I'm the president of Reynolds and Reynolds, and this is Presidio's Full Throttle podcast.
A great big welcome to you, Chris. It is a pleasure to have you on the program. I know you're out traveling, seeing a lot of dealers. We're going to talk about that, but thanks for taking the time.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Jason. Good to be here.
Thank you. And whether you're visiting stores or bringing dealers to Reynolds headquarters in Dayton, I know that there are many subjects that are top of mind. We're going to get into some of that. What kind of conversations are you having right now?
I mean, we have a lot of, general conversations. The great thing about, kind of being on the road and talking to customers and prospective customers is every dealership's different. Every dealer is different. Every conversation is a little bit different. That it makes it fun, but there's some common threads of what, people are interested in talking about right now. Certainly, given, what happened in July, cybersecurity is something that is top of mind for, probably pretty much every dealer that I talk to. And then a general, discussion around, whether it's, operational efficiency or how can I do more with less people or how can I take better advantage with technology to create, a better consumer experience, a better experience for, my associates. Those seem to be, kind of the general themes that, we end up landing upon and spending most of the time talking about.
So let's get into it because it has been so top of mind. We've talked to dealers on this program about it, but what are your big picture lessons or the big picture lessons that the industry got as a result of the cyber attacks on CDK Global?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the overall message that I think this sent, certainly to us, I can't speak for the entire industry, but I feel confident everybody got, something similar is this could happen to anybody, and it's not, it's not an isolated thing. It's happened, in lots of industries to lots of companies, some very large companies. So it's hit automotive in, kind of a major way with CDK, but I think it's caused, certainly us to reflect on, what are we doing today? And we've been, focused on and interested in cybersecurity for over 5 years. So we recognized it as a threat a long time ago. We've been doing a lot internally to protect our infrastructure and protect our customers. We purchased Proton, an IT management, compliance, and cybersecurity company about 2.5 years ago. We built a security operations center in order to manage our infrastructure and our Proton customers. But when I think about what's going on, I kind of break it down into 5 kind of layers. You have IT management. So how are you managing your infrastructure, your local area network, your wide area network? You certainly have compliance. Are you compliant with legislation out there? Are you documenting what needs to be documented? And are you doing the things that you need to be doing? Do you have the right processes in place? And then cyber insurance is another layer. Something that we're interested in, or we're actually interested in coming out with an actual cyber insurance offering to customers. So that's in kind of the works for us. Employee training, and then security and monitoring. And the last two, employee training and security and monitoring, I think are good ones to really shine a light on, because one, they're pretty actionable. From a dealership's perspective, they can have a pretty big impact on how secure your network is. And there are things that if you don't focus on can really have a negative impact. So think about, all it takes is one email to one associate at whatever level that he or she opens up, clicks on an attachment, and it starts. So that employee training on how to efficiently manage email is really a critical piece of this, and something we certainly recognize, and I know a lot of dealers are. But I see those 5 layers as being the kind of the keys to making sure that you're doing all the right things.
You were very helpful. You offered your help to the industry. You offered your help to dealers when all of this occurred. There had to have been a moment where you say, there, but for the grace of God, go I, right? I mean, isn't there how vulnerable is the retail automotive ecosystem to these kinds of attacks in the future?
I think it's probably, relatively vulnerable, one, given, the scale of the automotive, ecosystem, right? It's a massive ecosystem. It's not just dealers, it's OEMs and it's third parties, and, it's the lending institutions that are out there. So there's lots of, entry points, into that ecosystem. So I think it's, relatively vulnerable. I can't compare it to, healthcare or, manufacturing. There's a manufacturing element, but other industries outside of automotive, not sure I can compare it to those. But, we feel good with what we have been doing and what we are doing. But we also, I think we approach this, and I think you should approach this with, a level of humility and recognition that, this could happen to you. This is something that we need to be diligent about. We need to be thinking about, and we need to be focused on it every day. And we need to constantly be looking at, okay, what are we doing? And is it the right things to be doing? Are we doing it the right way? And is there a way to do it better to provide, an even more security for our company and for our customers? So it's an everyday kind of thing for us, and I'm sure for many people in the industry.
And to that point, are there opportunities in the aftermath of this big disruption for vendors, those in the industry, to develop new products that help reduce dealerships' exposure to attacks in the future?
I mean, I think there are. I mean, there's been attacks in our industry, and you read about some of those, and the various automotive publications that are out there. And I won't name the organizations, but there's been ransomware events with individual dealerships, and some of those dealerships have been large. So I do think there is an opportunity to have an offering that is available for dealers to take advantage of, where they may not have either the people, the intellectual capital, or just the general knowledge to be able to protect their environment as well as they should. So that was a key motivator for us when we acquired Proton, to be able to offer, have an offering that says, okay, we can protect your IT infrastructure, for you, and help with some of the employee training. We can also help with, compliance, make sure you've got documentation and you're doing the right things. And then we can also provide, the cybersecurity piece where we're doing, intrusion testing and monitoring and those kinds of things to make sure that we're continually challenging the customer, that they're doing everything they need to do and that we're doing everything we need to do in order to be safe.
Ironically, technology could be the answer, despite the fact that technology is the culprit, right?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that it worked that way.
Right, right. But it is about reducing risk, reducing customer risk, I guess, and also creating workarounds that help dealership operations run more smoothly should something like this happen again. I know you're hyper-focused on all of that. And I want to go back to something that you said earlier. Doing more with less. Dealers are really craving the next breakthrough, the next unlocking moment in technology, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, there's a couple, kind of common themes that I hear when we talk to customers and prospective customers. There's certainly a need or a desire to have more mobility, in their operations. And by mobility, I'm talking about things like having the service advisor have the ability, to do things on a phone, have a technician with the ability to do things on a phone. So they're not so much tethered to either a PC or a tablet, and they can be out, whether it's interfacing, with the customer, or in the case of a technician, doing more in their stall versus leaving their stall, to do other things and creating, better shop efficiency out there. So there's those kinds of things. I think there's, a real need and a desire to have a connected platform, single logins, across all your applications, a single automated reporting set, a unique identifier, a single unique identifier, for every customer. So, think about, how you could interact with a consumer. So Jason Stein comes in the store. The more I know about Jason, the more I know about his past buying behavior, demographic information, maybe digital information that I can capture from his activity on, our website. The more I know about Jason, the better I can interact with you, the better I can predict what you might be likely to do next. So when you think about that, you're likely to have a more relevant conversation with Jason. So you're talking about the things that are important, to him and what he's about to do or what he wants to do next. And you can also market, to your customer, much differently. So those are some of the things that, we talk a lot about. E-contracting is another one, another big focal point, I think, in the industry in general that, we've been focused on for a couple of years now. And, I tell our product teams, all the time that I believe it's, a top 5 project for Reynolds and Reynolds, because it can drive so much value, to a dealership, both operationally and economically, that it's really something that could be, really important to our customers, going forward.
When you spoke at the Presidio retail conference this past spring, we touched on the area of AI, which of course you can't have a conversation these days without either talking cybersecurity or AI.
Right.
So what are the low-hanging fruit areas for AI? Where are you seeing some immediate progress for dealers?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that, from my perspective, that I try to keep in mind is that, we don't want to use AI to solve one single thing. I think over the past 20 or 30 years, we've tended to, in the industry, solve problems like, one problem at a time or one department at a time. And I think to approach AI like that is probably not the most efficient way to approach it. But I think when you think about AI, that you need to have this underlying, kind of AI layer that all the tools that you're using and building kind of pulls, from that layer. That way you've got a much more, I think, holistic approach because you're leveraging a wider, array of data. But I think some of the low-hanging fruit that we're either doing things with now or doing things and trying to do more and other areas, what can we explore that we're maybe, not delving into. So I think from a low-hanging fruit perspective, I think, customer interactions, whether it's chat and text, I think there's opportunities to leverage AI there, phone call review and resolution opportunities there. And you can really connect AI with your CRM tool from that perspective. Prospect identification and outreach. Who's likely to buy? What are they likely to buy? What's the best way to communicate with them? And then used vehicle merchandising, used vehicle acquisition and merchandising. I think there could be a real role there for that. And we've been spending a lot of time looking at AI relative to our AutoVision platform, which is a used vehicle acquisition and merchandising platform. And then I also think, you can connect some processes there. Think about used vehicle acquisition and merchandising. We can connect our reconditioning process into that, workflow by leveraging tools like that. So our recontract platform, and AutoVision can become one synchronized, workflow, through utilization of things, like AI. So it's a really interesting, position, or a really interesting, opportunity, I think, for us and for the industry in general.
You have such a unique window into where the industry is on a regular basis because, as we said, starting off this conversation, you talk to so many dealers. So it's been 3 or 4 months since we talked to you at the Presidio event. What are you hearing now in terms of, the term that we've coined, the great normalization?
Oh, well, it does seem to be, our inventory levels seem to be, leveling off a little bit. What I'm seeing is, I think you saw it in COVID, and then it continued, past COVID, and you've seen it at different inflection points in our industry where, I think the really smart dealers are going back and focusing on the blocking and tackling, of their business and how to get a little bit more, back to the basics. I think the CDK cyber event, caused that. It's like, how do we desk deals? Well, if we don't have technology, are we not able to desk deals? Well, certainly, you are able to desk deals. You just got to go back to the future a little bit and, do it kind of the old-fashioned way. So I think there's those kinds of things that are happening. So, I think there's a lot of that's going on, and just, getting back to the basics and focusing on things like fixed operations and what can we do, better there to keep our customers, in our dealership and in that kind of infinity loop once they buy a car, and maximizing customer throughput when they are in, a dealership, creating a unique consumer experience, whether it's digitally or, in store in an analog environment, and connecting, that digital and in-store experience so that you have a, connected consumer experience as they flow through a digital and into an in-store experience.
Wonderful. You're going to be in front of a lot of dealers at your retail summit in a couple of weeks, August 19th and 20th at Lansdowne Resort outside of Washington, D.C. What are you most looking forward to?
Well, I guess the thing I'm most looking forward to is just connecting with, dealers and the industry. So we have retailers there, we have OEMs there, we have people outside of, those worlds, captives and those kinds of, people are there. And it's really interesting to me to talk to and listen to their perspective on the industry as it exists today and where it's going, because everybody looks at the industry through a different lens. And I think being open to how people look at it is really interesting to me. And I like connecting, with people, whether they're customers or even if they're not customers, and listening to their story and, what they're focused on. I'm really interested in listening to people like we have Mike Stanton from NADA coming. We have Vince Sheehy and Ed Wheaton, two very successful, retailers that are going to be there, really interested in what they have to say. We had a lot of requests, as you might imagine, for some sessions around cybersecurity and those kinds of things. So we have Will Farley, who is our Chief Privacy Officer and Vice President of Data Strategy. He's going to be doing a session. We have Frank Abagnale as a guest speaker. If you don't know who Frank is, he is who the movie Catch Me If You Can was based upon, that Leonardo DiCaprio starred in. Really, really interesting, fascinating guy that has a really good message from, his book and his movie, and connecting it to, our industry and our world today. So I heard him talk once, and he's really fascinating and highly entertaining. And then our Chief Information Security Officer, Nikhil Kalani, will be there talking about cybersecurity and answering questions about, what Reynolds has been doing and what we are doing, to do everything we can to provide a safe environment, for our customers. We'll announce a acquisition during that. It'll probably be publicly announced maybe in the next week or 10 days, but we will announce an acquisition there. We've got some best ideas and best product competitions in front of a live audience that always seem to be, really popular and really fun events to either participate in and listen to. So really a jam-packed, day that, we're really excited about. This is our second year of doing it. And, we're gonna, we're really excited about, connecting with the industry in that kind of a format.
Register at rayray.com/amplify. I was fortunate to be a moderator with a couple of IndyCar drivers last year at the Indianapolis 500. It is a well-attended, great event. I wish you the best of luck. Thanks for coming on the program and for telling the story of where we are today and maybe what we need to be thinking about for tomorrow.
I appreciate it, Jason. Always great to talk to you and look forward to seeing you in person, hopefully soon.
Great. Thank you, Chris.
All right, take care.
Thanks again to my guest, Chris Walsh, president of Reynolds and Reynolds. Thanks for listening to Full Throttle. Come back to us again later in the month for our next interview on this platform. Email me with suggestions, jstein@thepresidiogroup.com, or go to the website, thepresidiogroup.com. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening to the program. We'll see you next time.